Morning, Parikshit.
Morning, Ian. Good morning, all. I think we have people starting to trickle in. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes and then kick off this session on a bright Thursday morning.
Yeah, well, let's hope everybody else is calling in from the
Having the
UK and
same.
enjoying the sunshine.
Yes, we wish everybody the same sunshine Ian and I have been experiencing for the past 2 weeks.
Of course, the risk is for us. This was summer.
Quite a few have joined in. Okay, then we shall start. Good morning, all, and good afternoon to those joining us from different time zones. We are here today, as I'm juggling the slides, to talk about the future of services, especially in the process equipment industry. And we started talking about this topic almost the end of 2023 and have been exploring this topic further. We wrote a white paper last year and we launched it. We got quite an interesting response from it. A lot of companies interested in knowing more of how advanced services and more so the servitization journey makes sense in this industry. And of course, the process equipment industry is a very big, broad term. It includes many types of equipment, many types of providers, tier one, tier two suppliers, and ancillaries. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll do some context setting before we get into the weeds of it. But more interestingly, for today's webinar, if we call it that, Ian and I would like to take a slightly different approach. We don't want to spend too long talking between the two of us, but we want to spend a lot of time understanding your opinion, your challenges in this journey of servitization in the process equipment industry. And we know there's quite a few of you who have joined us from different companies that contribute to this industry. And we want to make it as real and as applicable for you as possible. So you will see once we start talking about where the process equipment industry is moving, we will do some benchmarking that Ian and I have spent doing. And after that, we want to hear more about your opinion and where you see your business placed in this journey. What are the challenges you are facing? And of course, asking Ian for his expertise, sharing his experiences, addressing the same challenges that you currently face. And if there's any more questions, we'll also spend time giving you the platform to put those questions to the two of us and to the rest of the Advanced Services Group team. So, for those who are joining us for the first time, just a very quick introduction to who we really are. And the Advanced Services Group, we are all about impact. And this impact is really focused on the three key questions on servitization and outcome-based business models. We are interested in why you should do this. What does it really mean to do servitization in your business? And how do you make it happen in real life? And we have been doing this for the past decade through essentially four pathways. The first one is our partnership program, which is an exclusive consortium of manufacturing firms, other types of industrial firms who have a product at their core, who are all going on this journey together and who are learning from each other, who are sharing their challenges and good practices, but at the same time, look at us for a structure on how to make it real. And secondly, we also have our advisory services, where if you are a business looking to go from point A to point B in the servitization journey and need bespoke support, we are there to hold your hand through that. And that's a specialized engagement we can craft with you. And we've been doing that for many years as well. And of course, if you want to do it yourself, there's our tools and frameworks and decision techniques that are available on our website. These are the ones you can download. You can run your own workshops. You can create your own processes within your organizations and build internal capacity to innovate. And finally, if you want to be professionally trained on how to do servitization, how to use these tools and techniques, we also provide training programs. And these 4 types of offerings and 4 pathways to engage with us, you can find those out through that QR code you see on the screen. And what really sets us apart is the intellectual property we have created over the past decade. This is not something we have thought of overnight as we start to engage with the topic, but it's something that has been created through peer-reviewed, rigorous academic research. All of the intellectual property you see on the screen today has been created through years and years of studying good and bad practices in businesses, how they have succeeded or failed in servitization, and how they have tackled individual hurdles that they face, right from how to create a vision for services, how to design and redesign products for services, and how to create contracts and financial models to to capture revenue back into the business from these services. And these have been applied with more than 450 firms. Some of these are on the screen right now. There are many others who are protected by NDAs, so we can't show them here, but be rest assured there's companies from across the globe, there's companies from different industries, and companies of very different sizes that have applied these frameworks, these tools, and have taken our advice to drive that impact of servitization in their businesses. And throughout our support, we only have one mission, is how can we help you accelerate your advanced services journey? And this is really where the interest of process equipment industry started as well, is how can advanced services play a key role in enabling that industry? So who are we today? Again, for those who are joining us for the first time, you probably don't know me. For those who have been coming to our webinars for a while, welcome back. So my name is Parikshit Naik. I am the Commercial Director at the Advanced Services Group. My background, I am by training a chemical engineer, and I guess that's where my interest in this industry comes from as well. I was surrounded by process equipment. I was born in a family of manufacturing chemicals. And I came across the idea that manufacturers can compete through something else than just making products and selling those products. And that was during my master's in innovation management. And I thought, what is this ridiculous idea of manufacturers doing something else than just providing products? And that's where my passion for servitization started. And that was 10 years ago. And since then, I've done a PhD on this topic, and I've been helping the companies that work with the Advanced Services Group to make this business model innovation a reality. And I've spent the past 8 years, almost 9 years, doing that. But very interestingly, we have Ian with us, and I think there's more to share in terms of experience and expertise from Ian. So Ian has had a stellar career at Tetra Pak. Ian has spent almost 37 and a half years in Tetra Pak. That is longer than, yeah, that's about 6 years more than my age. Sorry, Ian, I'm showing yours.
Oh, now I feel really old.
But that is a long time. Really understanding the process equipment landscape, specifically from the services sector. And to give you an example, 1985, Ian started as a services engineer in the UK in Warrington. And in 2022, Ian retired as the director of partnerships with a global remit. And during that period, Ian has had several roles across the organization. He has worked in South Africa, in Russia, in the UK, in Sweden, and has dealt with clients in UK, Europe, Russia, China, South Africa, and many other places as well. Pretty much traveling the globe doing services for Tetra Pak. And towards the end of his career in Tetra Pak, Ian, in his responsibility as director of partnerships, was looking at other partners and M&A opportunities to enhance these existing services and the services portfolio of Tetra Pak. And that is where Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is where I think you came across us as the Advanced Services Group and joined the Advanced Services Partnership and
Yeah,
started
that's correct. Yeah.
yeah, and started using the tools and started benefiting from the thought leadership in the group as well. And since then, Ian has been smitten by the topic of servitization, and we are very pleased to say that he has joined us at the Advanced Services Group as a senior industrial fellow, and we are, of course, very happy to have him, but very excited, especially for this webinar, to tap into your brain, Ian. So thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
So, getting into the topic of what are these advanced services, especially for the process equipment industry. And let's start with the latter end. What is the process equipment industry here that we're talking about? And I've put this graphic on the screen just to help you visualize what I mean by that. And this is a visualization of a dairy processing line. So you imagine the cans of milk that we have in our fridge in the house today, whether oat milk or real milk or any other forms of milk. They typically go through these different processes of separating, homogenization, pasteurization, and so on, all the way down to the packaging of it, bottling of it. And in between that, there are many, many ancillary processes that this material will go through. And all of the equipment, all of the parts and products that contribute to this can be considered as part of the process equipment industry. It doesn't mean you have to be manufacturing only processing equipment like homogenizers, separators, or it doesn't mean you only have to be doing packaging equipment. It can be many in between and around. And this is, of course, comes to highlight my passion as a chemical engineer, looking at this and thinking, this is exciting, and I want to understand the dependencies between each process in enabling the final outcome. But also thinking of the everyday objects around us, they all go through a number of processes that that are hidden from us. And there are outcomes that businesses expect behind these processes before these products land on our table. And we had been working with companies in this sector for a while, and it really showed the potential of what outcome-based services can deliver in this industry. And that's why we chose to study this further. And by study, I mean actually understand from the manufacturer's perspective how this industry is evolving and what are really the challenges these companies face. And this, as I said, it started around 2023. And we launched the white paper that you see on the screen in, I think, Q1 2024. So about the same time last year. And we went through a long process of interviewing companies, interviewing service experts, head of service divisions of some of the largest equipment manufacturers in this industry. And if you read the white paper, you will hear anecdotes and real quotes from these companies as well, which included Ian himself and some other companies as well. And what we really found is there are three key challenges that this industry is facing at the moment. Of course, the industrial landscape is rapidly changing with the geopolitical landscape creating new uncertainties. But if we look at these three specific challenges, the first one was about the need for customization from the customer side. So the customers of these equipment manufacturers, whether these are dairy farms, whether these are cheese producers, ice cream manufacturers, or other types of food, beverage, and even pharmaceutical manufacturers, they are looking at hyper personalization. They are looking at customizing the products they bring to market as a differentiating factor for themselves. But at the same time, the delivery schedules of services, of parts, of equipment is getting increasingly compressed. If we want to deliver at a fast rate, as a manufacturer, standardization is our best friend. But if the customer wants even more customization, this standardization is not really working in our favor. So there was a continuous tug of war between these two elements of customization and compressed delivery schedules. Secondly, of course, we are looking at commoditization. That equipment and the competitors, the manufacturers and their competitors are creating equipment that is becoming increasingly similar and similar. And the technologies and their quality is becoming increasingly similar. So how much more technological innovation can we add that differentiates us as a premium equipment manufacturer? The more commoditization happens, the more we end up in a price war and discussions on lowest cost competition with our clients. There's no manufacturer who wants to be involved in such discussions. So how do we address those? How do we move away from the idea of we will be providing the cheapest product, or our competitors are providing the cheapest product and their quality is just almost as good as ours? How else can we compete? And finally, the third challenge was the market, the industry, and our society is increasingly becoming environmentally conscious. And there's the material wastage coming from the process equipment industry is being highlighted very much nowadays, about the amount of waste that comes through poor processing, downtime. That means that certain processes have to be stopped and the raw material has to be rejected because you cannot just stop pasteurization halfway, for example. How can we reduce that and then equally report and capitalize on our environmental performance as a manufacturer? And looking at these three challenges, we asked the experts and industry professionals how their businesses are tackling these. And the common thread really was services are going to be a pathway to address these, as with especially the outcome-based services, what we call advanced services. They will allow us to take more responsibility and be more proactive with the customization and delivery schedules, because we decide what needs to be where in order to deliver the outcome for the customer. But also we are at the forefront of designing that customization. We don't react to customer demands, but we drive the customer demands. Similarly, when it comes to commoditization, outcome-based services are known, very well known, to be a differentiator, as the discussion is no more about the price or the quality of the product. It is about the guaranteed outcome that you deliver from the use of that product, from the use of that equipment. And that is where advanced services play a role in tackling commoditization. And finally, through advanced services, manufacturers can reduce the time they spend and the resources they spend on creating more spare parts, more materials, more packaging material, more consumables, thus reducing the environmental impact of these processes. and of course affecting the material wastage as they improve the efficiencies of such equipment. So advanced services have a key role in tackling all three challenges. But how do we accelerate that? And this is where we saw also digital technology playing a key role as an enabler, that it is not only possible that advanced services will tackle these challenges, but through digitally enabled advanced services, we can even make it faster. And we see that happening in many industries today. So if you want to read more about this topic and to know about these challenges, I strongly recommend having a look at the white paper. It is available free to download on our website. So please do have a look. And what it really reflects upon is the idea of advanced services. And what we mean by that is there are three types of services in the world of manufacturing industry. And it starts with these base services, which are all about providing the outcome of provision. We will provide you the product, we will provide you the spare parts for the product, but that's the limit of our responsibility. If we extend that, we look at intermediate services, the purple steps on this staircase. We will not only provide you the product and its spare parts, but we will also help you fix it if there's a problem. We will assure you a level of maintenance capability. So we will guarantee our performance in restoring the condition of this product. And finally, we will not only help you make sure the product is good enough and in a good state, but also help you use it in a better way. So performance advisory services. Not only that you should have the best product, but you should know how best to use it, how to best get the outcomes out of it. But finally, coming to advanced services, this is really interesting that these services are not just about how do we provide you the product, how do we maintain the condition of the product, but now it's about guaranteeing the outcome that you expect from the product. This could be based just on the asset capability, that we will guarantee a level of performance coming from an asset, or we will guarantee a level of performance from the process in which the asset sits. Or finally, we can guarantee the platform capability, the business success that your asset can enable. And to give you a very, I would say, relatable example, if we think of the heating systems within our homes, we look at a boiler or a heat pump. A customer asset capability is really about the uptime and the performance of that heat pump or that gas boiler, that it will run for X number of hours, it will produce X kilowatts of energy. The process is really the heating, which includes the asset, the boiler or the heat pump, the plumbing that goes with it, the radiators and the hot water system. Can we guarantee the entire performance of this system? And finally, the platform capability, what is the user really looking for, is comfort. So it's not only all of these elements of the system, but also the efficiency and future proofing against, let's say, uncertainty, energy tariffs, and so on. How can we provide this comfort as a service? And this is where the platform capability comes in. And these are the types of services we are really looking at. So having applied this same framework, this services staircase, to the world of process equipment industry, we started to understand how are real manufacturers, how can we benchmark real manufacturers against this? And the next piece is quite interesting here. What we really see is we took these 4 companies as examples of leading manufacturers in this space. But each step of this staircase isn't really the same as the standard staircase that we saw in the previous slide. We tried to customize it to the industry specifically. And you can see we have mapped Tetra Pak and its services portfolio against this, especially considering Ian's expertise. We also looked at GEA, SPX Flow, Krones, and disclaimer for all of this. This is entirely based on what we could publicly see on their websites, on their documents. They might be creating new initiatives. And if you are listening today or to this webinar, we would love to hear from some of the initiatives you are leading further up the staircase. But this is where we see the processing and packaging technologies in this industry moving towards. And at this point, Ian, if I may ask to start, if we start with the Tetra Pak journey, it's quite a comprehensive portfolio. If we think of the performance advisory services, and you had a key role in the Tetra Pak plant secure service going up there, how did this journey work out for you?
Let me just start probably first of all on discussing actually what do customers want. Because I think the journey we went on in Tetra Pak is largely driven by what the customers was asking for. I'll give you a really good example. It's not very complimentary, by the way, but one of the biggest big dairy groups in Europe told me that we were the best of a bad bunch. So in other words, they were not happy with any of us. So the obvious follow-up question to that is, what is it that we could do differently to actually deliver something that you actually value and something that you want, rather than you'd have to buy from one of the companies on this list. So we sort of started to realize is that, you know, the main root cause of dissatisfaction was performance of the assets in the customer's plant. So of course we have to start to address that. And of course the initial start was we need to get the assets to perform according to their specification. That didn't solve all the problems, because some of the problems actually were caused by the customer. So how do we control that? So that's where the consulting type business started. So we have to take a holistic approach, not just of our own equipment, but how it's installed in the customer, how competitors' equipment is installed in the customer, and see it as a whole system, a process system. And we actually have to get the performance of all of it working properly. So then, of course, Tetra Pak is a big, we call it WCM, world-class manufacturing, that basically is using the TPM methodology. So we thought, let's copy that and apply that to our customer site. And that's how we started with the advisory services.
So would you say that is the performance advice and the energy efficiency optimization, that area of the staircase?
Yes, basically it's a performance, yes, a performance advice level. And then of course, naturally, as you built on that, you realize that you could start to offer guarantees, because now you've got the expertise and the competence and the experience and the data to say that we could actually guarantee something. And so basically you're now guaranteeing an outcome the customer wants, be it OEE. All customers, believe it or not, nowadays ask for TCU guarantees when they buy equipment, total cost of the total cost of ownership. But the challenge, of course, with that is that doesn't deliver the product the customer wants. So we start to have to guarantee what the customer wants, which is cost of product, conversion cost of taking a raw product and converting into a saleable product, and also, of course, is the efficiency, because of course a customer really wants guaranteed high quality product available when they want it available. You know, they've got an order to meet, a customer order to meet, and it's got a window of opportunity. If it's delivering to major retail, it's even down to hours of when it's got to be delivered. So they've got to meet that target, and they want the guarantee that that's what they're going to get. So that's the sort of starting point.
Right, very interesting. So you started getting into these guarantees, the advanced services area. How do you see the guaranteed line availability and process capacity? What is the difference that you saw in practice at Tetra Pak?
I mean, initially we started with filling lines because, yeah, Tetra Pak makes filling equipment, process equipment, and packaging material. And the core of the company was always the, if you like, the filling line. So that's where we started, because actually that's where we had most performance data available to us. So then we realized that there was, the automation and data collection on processing equipment. The automation was actually a very high level, but the data availability wasn't so good. So then we need to start to improve the data availability on the processing. And then, of course, then we can start to expand the offer to the complete line and subsequently to a complete factory.
Okay.
And of course, the one thing Tetra
Interesting.
Pak doesn't do is make steam boilers, air compressors. So as soon as you go into complete factory, you're into everything.
Yeah, then you're looking at equipment that is outside your core capabilities, but
Yes,
without the alignment of this entire ancillary chain, you cannot really guarantee that end outcome.
correct.
Yeah.
And of course, the internal resistance within Tetra Pak is how can we guarantee something when we don't control it?
Mhm.
Because of course it's basically the customer operating the plant
Mhm.
normally. The different business models for who maintains the plant, which you can maybe explore, be it customer, be it the mix of Tetra Pak and the customer, or only Tetra Pak. And we've done all of those different options. But what we found through the TPM approach, that we can actually get control of how the customer operates the factory. And of course, it's much more complicated because you're working with people you don't own. But it is definitely possible, and it's actually quite, if you do it the right way, our experience is you can achieve amazing results.
Mhm. Absolutely. And last question, Ian, on this specific slide, the last step on the staircase, and we're talking about the end product output
Mm,
cost. None of the companies on this chart have achieved it, but that seems
mm.
to be a goal. Is this something driven by customer demand? Is that the final outcome a customer is looking for? And what does it really mean?
I think all customers want. So as part of this journey, we spoke to a lot of people in our customers' operations, and normally, at least in services, we would operate at a site level. But through this journey, we started to engage with chief financial officers, CEOs, owners of the business, and they tell us a different story to what you hear to site level. So they basically want certainty. I mean, they know what they're paying for the raw product. They know what they get paid for the product they sell. So obviously, if you can guarantee the costs of the product they sell, they know exactly what their profitability is, and that makes their investing decisions much easier because they have certainty. And of course, it shows a commitment from the supplier of most of their equipment that we can guarantee that. And that's a little bit. I mean, Tetra Pak's always seen itself as a system supplier. So we supply most of the things you need to transfer a raw liquid food product into a finished saleable liquid food product. So that's the sort of the background to that. And Tetra Pak's very well on the journey towards
Mhm.
what we would call sell a good pack, guarantee
Right.
that the cost of the pack the consumer would pick up in the supermarket is of a good quality and at a known price.
Mhm. And I think that's very interesting, the predictability of that end price, the end output cost to the customer. And it really relates to um, the ethos of advanced services is you are successful if your customer is successful. So how can you make them even more successful? And it goes back to this idea of the customer platform capability of their business platform itself. So very
Correct.
interesting indeed. Yeah. Sorry, Ian, were you about to say something?
No, I mean, I just want to give an anecdote.
Yeah.
In around 20, maybe 2020 it was, we had a chance to sit down with our biggest customer in China.
Mhm.
Um, and it was the VP of production. This company makes more than 15 billion packs a year, which is ginormous. And they clearly stated to us that, buying equipment, we offered no strategic relevance to their business because they had a choice. Buying packaged material, no strategic relevance because they had a choice. Buying services, no strategic relevance because they had a choice. What they wanted from us was to help them become one of the top 5 food companies in the world. And I looked at the facts and figures available, and they've made it. Now, I think that's interesting because when we're only, if I go back 37 years ago, being good at servicing was enough. But today, it isn't enough. I always say that when you take your car to the garage to be serviced, that's a distress payment. You take a working car to the garage, you pay them a lot of money, and you drive it away. If you're lucky, they've cleaned it, but you can't tell what else they've done. So, and you paid a lot of money for it. So there's no pleasure in that. Hence that comment I posted on LinkedIn. But so we have to align ourselves much more in the process industry to what our customers want and help them achieve and deliver on their strategy, whatever that is.
Absolutely. And I think this is a very, very valuable insight. A lot of service divisions, field service technicians, and even the product sales team, the type of conversations they will typically have, what we have encountered, really revolves around the operations and the product side and the spare parts availability side. And this business environment and customer strategy side of what role do we play in that? That is an answer nobody has because that has never been asked. But if, like you said, the customer in China said, these offerings, these standard offerings, play no strategic role towards our success. What would make us successful if you can enable us to be one of the best 5? I think that is a call for great involvement as a partner rather than a supplier of equipment, isn't it?
Correct. And that's the key word is we all want to see ourselves as partners with our customers. And I think almost everybody on this list would claim that they're partners with their customers. But if you go and ask the question at a board level, does the customer see you as a partner? But we all know, sustainable long-term business is actually based on the fact it is a partnership.
Absolutely.
So it's quite, to me, this staircase is actually, we were on a journey before, as you said earlier, Parikshit, on this journey before we met you guys. But we made lots of mistakes climbing these steps. And maybe if we'd seen some of the material, it didn't exist, but we've seen some of the material when we started the journey, we would have been quicker and more efficient in climbing the staircase.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ian. And I think at this point, what we want to do is let the attendees and all of the different companies that we have in our attendee list today ask us more questions on this. And to enable that, what we are doing is starting with 3 questions. And they will appear shortly on your screen. But just to explain what's going to happen is you will see these 3 questions. And what we want you to think about is, as a business contributing to this industry, where do you place yourself at the current moment? And you will have 3 options on your screen of the base, intermediate, and advanced. Then the next question is about the vision. Where do you want to be in the future? And by future, I mean, let's say in the next 5 years. Where do you see your services portfolio being extended towards? And finally, if you wanted to achieve that vision in the next 5 years, what is the biggest hurdle you foresee or you are experiencing right now? And there'll be a few examples that we have come across so far. But if there's anything else, please feel free to put it in the chat as well, so we can draw out any examples. So what we want to do is look at those answers and perhaps even ask Ian how he tackled those hurdles, how he tackled the extension of that vision. So as the queue goes, Christina has launched the poll. So we'll wait for your answers on that. So the first question, you have multiple choices. So your footprint can be across 1, 2, or 3 of these sectors. The others are more of a single choice question. Give you a minute or so. Can we see the results, Christina? Yeah, very interesting. Ian, I hope you can see it on your screen as well.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the businesses in the room place themselves at base and strongly developing into intermediate services as well. That is quite promising. And then looking at the vision to extend, really nobody is interested in staying at base services. That's an important tick.
Mm.
Looking at building new or further developing their intermediate service space, and even building new advanced services. And the challenges they all face, it's really about not having the time and resource to dedicate to this. And they haven't yet, 60% of the people answering the questions have not yet developed a value proposition, which is quite interesting to know. Thinking of the second question specifically, Ian, if I may ask you,
Mhm.
there's a vision to develop these intermediate services and also to extend into advanced services. How was it from your experience, the development of portfolio? Did you gradually build step by step,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
did you have to just jump
That's why
on?
this. No, that's why the staircase is a good model, because it is a staircase. And in truth, uh, we built our data when we moved into the intermediate services, and that sort of answers the sort of the value proposition to a certain degree. Without clarity about what you can actually do and calculate, it's very difficult to develop a value proposition that's tangible. It's very easy to come up with a theoretical one where it's just going to do X and it's going to be wonderful, but there's a certain orange man somewhere in the world sometimes does those. I think the key thing there is getting a clear understanding of your customer's operation, be able to calculate it is for us was a must-have. So, for instance, in the liquid food industry, I have not seen any customer, not met a single customer yet doing activity-based costing. So we developed that model, and now we're able to deliver that to our customers, so we can actually calculate their cost base per product, per SKU. And that insight, turning performance data into money, is actually quite valuable when you start looking at what risks you're prepared to take, because you can start to quantify them. And also through the advisory services, through the consultancy work you do, you actually start to learn how to control the variables that you don't own, as I mentioned earlier. And by getting control of it, then of course you start to mitigate those risks that you would face as you go to the very top of the staircase.
Got it. And I think that question about the value proposition and how to start, where to start, we have come across this challenge so many times. And I think what you said about quantifying the value the customer expects is bang on. I think that is really what drives future capturing of that value back. So your revenue model as well. But very importantly, this is a mission critical step in the servitization journey. How do you develop a robust value proposition? And we have helped a number of companies, including Tetra Pak, during your days in the partnership and still with their involvement. There is a specific 7-step process that we created for the creation of value propositions in outcome-based services. And you can find that as a mini guide on our website as well. But it is a thing of practice. And Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't always get it right the first time. And you have
Uh,
to involve the customer in that co-creative journey.
Correct. Yes, the voice of the customer is key. I mean, I'll give you another anecdote on that one, which I think is quite interesting. We see when we stand in our supplier feet, to the process industry, we see our customers from our perspective. One of the things I learned is go and ask the customer what is their core competence that they have to be world best at to survive in their industry.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it's not making the product. I'll give you a real example, a UK example. One of the biggest juice producers in the UK, actually managing retailer supply and the volatility of that was you wouldn't think the amount of orange juice the retailers consume would be variable, but it is. It's a number of different factors that drive that. And we all see it if you go into any supermarket in the world. You buy 2 and you get a discount. Buy 3 and get a bigger discount. So all of those kind of games that the retailers play, that drives volatility in the supply chain that our customers have to manage. The consequence of that one, of course, is that enables us to take over some of the services within that plant and guarantee better machine availability, deliver better machine availability so it could produce and start to manage some of that volatility.
And the
So,
business that can manage this best retains the contract with the supermarket.
correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. The second line there, Ian, a lot of the companies have a challenge of dedicated time and resource in developing advanced services. And I'm sure this is a challenge you faced as well. How was it on your end?
Yeah. To me, in a way that the two things, the value proposition and that point, are in some way linked, because resourcing is a strategic question, and one of the things, the key success factors is you must have is that you've got to have a vision, a strategic vision of what you want to do, because that comes before doing value propositions, because this is saying this is where we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also then, to drive that, you've got to have a executive level sponsor. We were very lucky in my time in Tetra Pak, and subsequently that I think we've always had executive level sponsorship to drive this agenda. And that starts to make some of the resources available. When you start off, you don't need to be a big team. You just need to be a team of can-do, almost crazy guys who are willing to go and do things that other people say can't be done. It doesn't need to be on a global scale to start with. You need to start small, prove it works, get the evidence to prove the skeptics in the organization that this is worth investing in. And once you've done that, it becomes much easier, because then you will get some, it's a challenge that never goes away. That's the only thing I would say. The way companies measure themselves internally sometimes is counterproductive to what they say in their vision statements and 3-year mission statements and all the rest of it. But that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ian. And I think it tells us your words about having this group of do-it people, sometimes even some crazy ones. It puts us in a very good position to talk about the servitization route planner. And what this is we have been understanding how businesses have done it, but last year we took the step of being able to prescribe to you all as industrial firms, how should you do it? And what Ian really mentioned, having that group of people who can build that argument and claim that resource from the skeptics is really the activities in the explore stage. On the left-hand side, you see the first step is the first activity in that task is about building a coalition. Having those 4 or 5 people who are willing to build this, experiment with this idea of new services, creating that argument of why this would make money, why this would differentiate the business, why would it help us be sustainable in the economy. That is the argument you must create. And that is what leads to a resource allocation. This might mean money, this might mean your own share of time or additional people and competencies. And then you move into engage, where we saw the second challenge a lot of you faced, not having a value proposition. The first step in that value proposition is discovering what is it the customer wants. What Ian said about quantifying the needs of the customer is that discover activity in the engage task. And then you hypothesize what this new service could look like. It's a co-creative hypothesis with the customer that we think by understanding your pains and gains, if we deliver you X outcome, X capability, we can make you more successful. And that is what you demonstrate. And just going back to Ian's words, it never ends. So that demonstration is not only to your customer, but is also to the skeptics in the business that we have demonstrated value to the customer and to the business. So this is worth investing further in. And that's what gets you into the expand and exploit stages. And there's this is a methodology that we strongly recommend all industrial firms in this process equipment industry to adopt if they really want to take servitization seriously. Now, as a next step, we would like to dig into Ian's brain a bit further. So, conscious of time, so this will appear, I think, as another poll on your screen. What would you like to know more from Ian? And these are the 4 questions to start with we are looking at. If we don't have the time, we'll send these as a follow-up to you all as a written document of Ian's advice on how he tackled these challenges. So yeah, please do let us know what you think you want to know most about.
I don't like though, Christina, I don't like it that I'm not allowed to vote.
If you were to vote, Ian, if this was a question I put to you 10 years ago before you started on this journey, what would you want to know most?
Yeah, I would say actually number 1. Yeah.
Was that your biggest challenge?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll see what everybody else has said. Christina, can we see the results, please? Ah, interesting split. So businesses want to know more about how do you convince the internal leadership? Of course, Ian, your biggest challenge. And how did you engage the customers in co-creating these services with you? If I gave you 1 minute, Ian, to give me an answer on first or the second, which one would you choose and what would you say?
Let's answer number 2 because that's what most people are asking.
Yeah.
So I go back to what I said earlier on number 2, which is you need to start the discussion at the top of your customer. So basically executive level. Have that discussion first of all about what is their strategy, how can you help them deliver on their strategy, what is their core competencies, and then we did then we say, well, okay, can we have a discussion, a working group with some of your people to actually flesh this out so we understand what we can do, and that's how we would go about it to actually take that co-creation exercise. Because, of course, you need a very broad range of people in that co-creation exercise. I mean, give you a hard example, which was quite interesting in a lot of different cultures, is we would insist we had operatives from the floor, in that co-creation workshop,
Okay.
because they're the people who actually know all the pains of actually the day-by-day issues that they experience. Um, and often customers don't, the management of the customer doesn't even go and talk to them, depending on what culture you're in. So that was quite an interesting, that I remember for some of the workshops I took part in, where the production director of the plant would say, "I never knew half of this." well, if you go and walk the floor and talk to the people, you might learn. I wouldn't say it that way, of course, but part of the solution maybe is actually we encourage that kind of behavior.
Okay. Very co-creative. And from the bottom up, we want to
Yeah,
understand the perspectives of the people who use our equipment, but also the people who strategize on the business's success. So it's a multi-level approach, and I imagine it was a multi-level involvement from your side as well, Ian. It was senior and the salespeople and everybody involved.
yeah. We had specific people who were trained in this area. So, for instance, our consultants were all trained. Most of them were trained to do these kind of workshops as well.
Mhm.
My senior leaders globally was trained to do all of this kind of stuff, and they would drive these workshops with the customer. Um, following a very we didn't know that ASG had the same methodology, but uh, doing pain and gain workshops is pretty standard,
Mhm.
procedure, and of course, that's what we would do.
Excellent. Yes. And I think that the voice of customer and the pains and gains workshop, we have been as ASG involved with so many of the manufacturers uh, because it's a thing of practice. The more you do it, the better you get. And
Correct.
one thing very important to remember for all industrial firms is it is very much a listening exercise, not a solutions exercise. You are there
Yeah.
to tap into the customer's pains, not to immediately solve them, but create a more comprehensive solution that you can bring to table. Uh, and that we have provided more independent support where we can ask some of the
Mm.
silly or difficult questions. And it's always eye-opening for the manufacturers who have never seen how the product is used. So it's a very
Yeah,
useful exercise.
and also, of course, the key thing is it mustn't be defensive. You
Mm.
mustn't try and justify why your equipment's wonderful and it's all the customer's fault, which sometimes happens.
I can think of quite a few examples when it has happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ian.
Well,
So,
while
go
you
ahead,
just
Ian. Yeah.
quickly flip over, I'll just quickly on number one. I would say, internal marketing is the key. You've got to go and sell yourself internally. Um, whenever there's a top management conference in your company, you know, getting a pitch at that is always quite useful.
Mhm.
Because often people you would think should know, don't know, and when they say that, oh, I didn't know we could do this.
Mm.
So you have to go and sell yourself, and sometimes you have to be a bit optimistic about what you can do.
Yeah, yeah, be bold
Be
and
bold.
be consistent. I think, like you
Mm.
said, it doesn't stop. You have to keep communicating this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will move on from the Q&A, but if you do have any, please put it in the Q&A section. Just like the previous four questions, we will provide a follow-up with more detailed answers from Ian and me and some extracts from the white paper. But if you have any other questions, please do let us know. We will respond to them separately. But if you would like to understand more of how to apply this strategy to your business, have a look at the Servitization strategy book and the playbook that comes with it. The playbook revolves entirely around the route planner that you saw, the four tasks and the 12 activities under it. And this gives you the exact steps you need to take to make this real in your business. You can look into it through that QR code as well on the screen. And you can access a range of our tools and techniques. Like Ian said, if he had those earlier, it would have been a faster journey. Coming up in the second week of May, we will have the Services Week, which is quite a flagship event for us all. And this starts with a service-led growth boot camp, what we call Servitization Boot Camp. We will have the Spring Servitization Conference, which is a combination of academics and practitioners looking at the state of the art in this field. And we also have our Advanced Services Partnership, the Spring Roundtable happening. At the same time, we will also be looking at Servitization Awards and recognizing the excellence that we have seen across manufacturing firms adopting the servitization strategy. And if you would like to attend these events throughout the week, please do get in touch with us. You will hear from some of our keynote speakers, which includes Professor Tim Baines, Tom Palmer from Rolls-Royce, Paul Jennings from JCB Finance, and Professor Baden Fuller from the Bayes Business School as well. The bootcamp is a great opportunity, especially for those who were on this webinar today. It is the right initial step in understanding how do I do this seriously if I want to experiment with servitization in my business, and what are the tools and techniques. This is a one-day in-person event that we will host in Liverpool, where we will have multiple companies come together as 2, 3, 4, 5 people, or a single business leader as well. And we will go through some of these tools and techniques on how to create new services, how to visualize business models, and how to drive that service-led growth. You can see some pictures of the different activities businesses go through when coming to such a boot camp. So if you are interested, the boot camp will be on the 13th of May. This is the Tuesday, 13th of May. And please do get in touch with us and we can share more details. And next, we will have another webinar coming up on the 30th of April. So just 20 days down. This is really interesting with a great lineup. We will have Kate Rattigan from Domino. We will have Keith Thornhill from Siemens Technology, hosted by Sarah Nicastro from Future of Field Service. And of course, our own Dr. Kawal Kapoor. And this topic is inspired from a piece of work we did, understanding how services and service partnerships drive success in the fast-moving consumer goods sector. So if you would like to learn more about it, of our study and the perspectives of Kate from Domino and Keith from Siemens, please do register for that as well. And with that, I will say thank you to all for attending, for listening to us, and for interacting with us on the polls. If you have any questions, you can always ask us at ask@advancedservicesgroup.co.uk, sorry. And you can follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So thanks a lot, Ian. Thank you all. And thank you, Christina, for helping us make this a success.
Thank you.